Honey, why is there blood on the mop? I had just walked through the front door, loosening my tie, when I saw my perfect wife mopping the floor. In the next second, the front door was kicked off its hinges. 3 burly men in tactical gear burst in, guns raised. I nearly wet myself. I thought I was a dead man. But my gentle, soft-spoken wife didn't even flinch. She calmly set down the mop, picked up a wooden chopstick from the counter, and in the blink of an eye, neutralized all 3 of them. "Don't be scared, honey," she said, wiping a speck of blood from her cheek with a tender smile. "It's just a little deep cleaning. Honey, you're home." The moment I pushed the door open, a warm breeze carrying the scent of dinner washed over me. In the kitchen, Elena Hayes was wearing her pink floral apron, humming an off-key tune as she tossed a wok. Her long, dark hair was tied back loosely, exposing the graceful curve of her neck. Under the warm yellow pendant lights, her skin looked like polished porcelain. This was my wife, Elena. 3 years ago, when I was at the lowest point of my life, she shone into my gray world like a beacon. We fell in love at first sight, got married in a heartbeat, and for 3 years, she had turned this small Chicago apartment into the warmest harbor in the world. She fit every fantasy a man could have of a wife: beautiful, gentle, considerate, and a cook who could rival Michelin chefs. I often bragged to my buddies that I must have saved the galaxy in a past life to be lucky enough to marry a goddess like Elena. "I made your favorite, Asian glazed ribs," Elena said, walking out of the kitchen with a steaming platter, a sweet smile on her face. "Go wash up, dinner's ready." "Yes, ma'am." I laughed, setting down my briefcase and kicking off my dress shoes. The familiar, comforting aroma of home cooking swirled around me, and the day's exhaustion seemed to evaporate. This was what I wanted. The simplest, happiest life. Humming a tune, I walked into the bathroom. I was just about to wash my hands when something in my peripheral vision caught my attention. The mop leaning against the corner. Why did it look wet? I remembered when I left this morning, the sun was blazing over the balcony. She would have put the mop out to dry, and on the cotton strands of the mop head, there seemed to be something dark red. I leaned in and sniffed. A faint metallic scent of rust drifted into my nose. "Honey," I called out, "did you mop up something weird today? Why does it smell like rust?" Elena's voice floated from the dining room, laced with confusion. "No, just normal cleaning. Maybe the mop is just old. We could get a new one tomorrow." "Oh, all right." I didn't think much of it and turned on the faucet. The water rushed over my hands. Maybe the mop was just old. But the moment I turned off the tap and reached for a towel, an earth-shattering crash exploded from the living room. Boom! It sounded like someone had taken a battering ram to our front door. The entire apartment seemed to shake. My heart seized, and my brain went blank with a high-pitched ring. What the hell? I didn't even have time to dry my hands before I sprinted out of the bathroom like a madman. The scene before me was something I would never forget. Our heavy security door was twisted like a piece of scrap paper. The lock had been violently blown out, leaving a gaping, jagged hole. 3 massive men wearing black tactical gear and balaclavas, revealing only cold, dead eyes, were stepping into our living room in a tactical formation. The leader was holding a submachine gun, something I'd only ever seen in movies. "Elena." My eyes nearly popped out of my head. My first instinct was to look for my wife. Elena was still holding the platter of glazed ribs, standing frozen by the dining table. The color drained from her face at a visible speed, leaving her pale. Her body trembled with fear, and the sauce from the ribs sloshed onto the floor. Who are you?" I mustered every ounce of courage I had and stepped in front of Elena, though my voice was shaking uncontrollably. "Breaking and entering is a felony. I've already called the police." The leader let out a low, animalistic scoff. He slowly raised the muzzle of his gun and pointed it right at me. In that instant, I felt my blood turn to ice. The shadow of death weighed on my chest like a mountain. "Shut up, insect," he said, his voice raspy and thick with a foreign accent. "We're not here for you. Hand over Nightingale, and you might live." "Nightingale? What Nightingale?" My brain was a chaotic mess. I had no idea what he was talking about. I don't know any Nightingale." "It seems you need a little reminder." The man's index finger slowly tightened on the trigger. "I'm done." The thought floated clearly in my mind. I could almost imagine the bullet tearing through my body, blood staining the floorboards. "I'm sorry, Elena. I couldn't protect you." I closed my eyes in despair. But the gunshot I expected never came. Instead, I heard the crisp sound of shattering porcelain. Crash! I snapped my eyes open. I saw Elena, my gentle, kind wife who couldn't even watch a chicken being killed, slowly, deliberately bending down. She had dropped the platter of ribs, but she wasn't looking at the mess. Her movements were slow, soft, almost as if she were handling a precious work of art rather than broken ceramics. When she straightened up, the pallor of fear on her face was gone, replaced by a cold, absolute calm I had never seen before. Her eyes had changed. They were no longer the eyes that looked at me with overflowing warmth. They were the eyes of a wolf, calm, focused, and filled with lethal intent. She looked up, her gaze bypassing me to lock onto the three-armed men. In a voice colder than a Siberian winter, she whispered, "Who gave you permission to interrupt our dinner?" The three gunmen clearly hadn't expected this reaction. The leader paused, then let out an even more dismissive sneer. "Nightingale, it looks like the domestic life has dulled your claws. Drop the act and come with us, or your pathetic husband is going to—" He never finished his sentence, because the moment he opened his mouth, Elena moved. I didn't even see her move. 1 second she was standing quietly by the table. The next, her silhouette became a blur. Her slippers were kicked off instantly as she launched herself forward. Barefoot, she charged with the momentum of a tiger descending a mountain. She was like a hunting leopard, elegant and deadly, closing the distance to the leader in a heartbeat. The man's pupils constricted violently. Terrified by her supernatural speed, he instinctively squeezed the trigger. But he was too late. Elena was faster. Her right hand shot out like lightning, grabbing the barrel of his gun and jerking it upward. Tot. A stream of bullets grazed my scalp and buried themselves in the wall behind me, sending plaster flying. I was scared out of my wits and collapsed onto the floor. At the same time, Elena's left hand flattened into a rigid blade and chopped down with vicious precision onto the man's wrist. Crack! The sickening sound of breaking bone echoed in the room. The man let out a shrill scream, dropping the weapon. Elena caught the gun in midair, and without even looking, reversed it and smashed the stock into the man's temple. Thud! The heavy impact made my own head throb. The massive man, who had looked so invincible a second ago, didn't even make a sound. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed like a pile of wet mud. It all happened in the spark of a flint. The other two men hadn't even reacted before their leader was taken out by my defenseless wife. Fuck! The remaining two finally snapped out of it, roaring as they raised their guns to fire at Elena. But Elena didn't give them a chance. She kicked the unconscious leader, sending his 200-pound body flying like a sandbag toward the man on the left. The man on the left stumbled as his comrade's body slammed into him, his aim going wild. Bullets sprayed the ceiling. Elena used the recoil of the kick to drop low, sliding like a nimble cat to the man on the right. The submachine gun in her hands seemed to transform into a brutal bludgeon. Holding the barrel, she swung the stock upward with all her strength in a vicious uppercut, striking the man directly under the jaw. Crunch! The man's head snapped back violently from the force, producing a bone-chilling sound. I watched helplessly as he stiffened and fell backward, the back of his head slamming onto the floor. Blood began to pool from his ears and nose. Instant kill. Another instant kill. By this time, the last man, the one who had been knocked over by the leader's body, was struggling to get up. Seeing his two partners neutralized in seconds, his eyes were filled with terror and disbelief. He let out a beast-like roar, raised his gun, and sprayed bullets frantically at Elena. D, you bitch? Tot. Muzzle flashes illuminated the room as bullets poured out like rain. Elena calmly tossed the empty submachine gun aside and dove behind the solid oak dining table. Wood chips exploded into the air as the bullets shredded the furniture. I scrambled behind the sofa on all fours, covering my head with my hands, shaking uncontrollably. Was I dreaming? Was this a movie? Or was my gentle domestic wife, the wife who needed my help to open a jar of pickles? Who was this decisive war goddess of a woman slaughtering people in my living room? The gunfire stopped abruptly. He was out of ammo. The huge man panted heavily, discarding his empty weapon. He pulled a gleaming military combat knife from his belt, his eyes filled with venom as he stared at the dining table. Come out, Nightingale. I'm going to carve you into pieces. He advanced slowly, cautiously, toward the table. Elena slowly stood up from behind the cover. In her hand, seemingly out of nowhere, was an object. Chopstick. Just a standard wooden cooking chopstick she must have grabbed from the table. The man saw it and paused. Then a cruel smile spread across his face. He thought she was mocking him. With a roar, he brandished the knife and lunged. Elena's expression remained as calm as still water. Just as they crossed paths, her wrist flicked. The man's charging body suddenly froze in place. He looked down in disbelief at his own neck. The wooden chopstick was buried more than halfway in his throat. Blood erupted like a fountain. He made a gurgling, rasping sound, trying to speak, but only air escaped. Finally, his massive frame crashed to the floor. The room fell into a deathly silence. The only sound was my own heavy breathing. Elena stood amidst the three bodies, her chest heaving slightly. She turned her head to look at me, cowering behind the sofa, completely shell-shocked. The cold, lethal intent in her eyes melted the moment she met my gaze. The terrifying aura receded like the tide, and she transformed back into the familiar, gentle Elena. She looked at the mess, then at my pale, terrified face, and an expression of apology and distress appeared. She smiled awkwardly, pointed at the bodies and the blood, and used a tone one might use to ask who's doing the dishes tonight. Honey, don't be afraid. It's just a little deep cleaning. Deep cleaning? I looked at the hell's cape before me. 3 bodies lying in pools of blood, bullet holes in the walls and ceiling, the air thick with the smell of iron and gunpowder. You call this deep cleaning? My brain had completely crashed. I couldn't process anything outside my cognitive range. I opened my mouth to speak, but my throat was so dry not a syllable came out. I could only watch helplessly as Elena, my wife in name, the woman I thought I knew inside out, began to handle the aftermath with unimaginable calm. First, she went to the door and pulled the ruined metal shut. It wouldn't latch, but it blocked the view from a hallway. Then, she went to the bathroom and brought out the mop I had complained about earlier, a bucket of water, and some rags. She rolled up her sleeves, revealing pale, delicate arms, and started mopping. Yes, mopping. She did it seriously and meticulously, just like any other day. She mopped up the blood, and where it had congealed, she knelt and scrubbed with a rag. Her movements were so practiced it terrified me. It was as if she had done this 1,000 times. She dragged the 3 bodies to the corner and stacked them like cargo. She picked up the submachine guns and the knife, placing them on the coffee table as casually as one would a TV remote. Throughout the whole process, she didn't make a sound. Her expression was calm, even focused. I huddled behind the sofa, watching her busy silhouette, feeling like I was watching an absurd horror movie. My mind was a chaotic mess. Who was she? Who was she really? Was the last 3 years of tenderness an act? Did I marry a demon? Jason. Elena's voice suddenly sounded right next to my ear. I flinched violently, realizing she had finished cleaning the floor and was now squatting in front of me with a glass of warm water, looking at me with concern. Dee, don't come over. I instinctively scrambled backward, my voice trembling pitifully. The light in Elena's eyes dimmed instantly. A hurt expression crossed her face. Softly, she said, I'm sorry. I scared you. She placed the water on the floor in front of me, then silently backed away, sitting on the single armchair furthest from me. She lowered her head, twisting the hem of her shirt nervously. She looked so pitiful, exactly like the gentlewoman I knew. But the moment I closed my eyes, I saw her driving a chopstick through a man's throat. Gentle? Pitiful? I felt a chill shoot from my soles to my scalp. We sat like that, one behind the sofa, one on the chair, in a dead silence, facing off. The presence of the 3 uninvited guests in the corner was overwhelming. I don't know how much time passed before I finally found my voice. Who were they? I croaked, every word squeezed through my teeth. Elena looked up, her eyes complex. She was silent for a long time, so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, she spoke slowly. They came to catch me. Catch you. My heart sank. Why? Because I'm a deserter. A deserter? You were in the military? Elena shook her head, a bitter smile on her lips. Not the kind you're thinking of. I used to belong to an organization. A shadow organization that operates outside the law. My breathing stopped. I was trained by them since I was a child, she said softly, looking down as if telling someone else's story. The training was how to kill. We didn't have names, only code names. She paused, then lifted her eyes to meet mine. My code name was what they called me. Nightingale. Nightingale. My brain buzzed. 3 years ago, I got tired of that life. I didn't want to kill anymore. Elena's voice carried exhaustion and sorrow. So, I found an opportunity. I faked my death and escaped. I destroyed my past, wanting only to find a place where no one knew me, to live like a normal person, get married, have children, and live out my life in peace. Then, I met you, Jason. Her gaze fixed on my face. For the first time, those beautiful eyes showed vulnerability and pleading. The 3 years with you were the happiest of my life. I really wanted to live like that with you, forever. But they found me. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. It hurt to breathe. The information overload was immense. Assassin? Organization? Codename Nightingale? Fake death. These were plot points from movies, yet here they were, my wife's history. My wife of 3 years was a top-tier assassin. For 3 years, I had been sleeping next to a woman who could kill without blinking. The realization made me shudder. But looking at her fragile, helpless state, I felt she wasn't lying. No con artist could act that flawlessly for 3 years. The care, the gentleness, the smiles, they had felt real. So, I spoke with difficulty. Was the last 3 years all fake? No. Elena stood up excitedly, looking at me with urgency. Only my past is fake. Every minute, every second I spent with you is real. Jason, please believe me. I really don't want to go back to that life. I just want to be your wife, Elena Hayes. I looked at her, this familiar stranger, my mind in turmoil. Believe her? How could I? A woman who calmly kills 3 men and mops the floor. How could I trust that she wasn't acting right now? My silence was a knife that pierced her. Elena's eyes slowly dimmed. She gave a miserable smile, as if accepting her fate. I understand. She turned around, silently picked up the 3 guns from the coffee table, and walked toward the corpse pile in the corner, seemingly preparing to dispose of the trash. Looking at her back, a back that looked so slight amidst the blood and carnage, my heart suddenly ached. Wait, I shouted it almost subconsciously. Elena's body went rigid. She turned slowly, looking at me with a glimmer of disbelief and hope. My brain was still chaos. Logic told me to call the cops and run as far as possible from this dangerous woman. But emotionally, I couldn't do it. The last 3 years weren't a lie. The light she left on for me when I worked late wasn't fake. The tears she shed when I was sick weren't fake. The kiss on my forehead every morning wasn't fake. If someone could act to that level, she wasn't a demon, she was a god. I took a deep breath and stood up shakily from behind the sofa. I looked at her and asked word by word, "What do we do now?" Hearing this, Elena's eyes lit up instantly. It was the brilliant light of someone seeing dawn in absolute darkness. She stepped forward excitedly, but stopped, afraid to scare me. You're willing to believe me?" Her voice trembled with caution. I gave a bitter laugh. "I don't know, but I know you're my wife. We haven't divorced yet, so I can't exactly watch you handle this. Mess alone. Jason." She murmured my name, her eyes turning red. I had never seen her like this. The decisive war goddess was now like a child given candy, overwhelmed with emotion. "Thank you." She took a deep breath, forcing back the tears, her eyes becoming calm and focused again. "Thank you, honey." That honey settled my heart slightly. "We have to leave immediately," she said quickly, her tone leaving no room for argument. "If they found this place once, they can find it again. The next wave will be stronger and harder to deal with." "Leave? Go where?" I asked. "Ideally a safe place." Elena walked briskly into our bedroom. I hesitated, then followed. She went to the old wardrobe we had used for 3 years and reached inside, feeling for something. Click! The back panel of the wardrobe slid open. It revealed a hidden compartment. My eyes bulged. The wardrobe had a false back. I had slept in this room for over 1,000 nights and knew nothing. The contents of the compartment nearly made me faint. No gold or jewelry. Instead, neatly arranged on the rack were guns, pistols, submachine guns, strange weapons I couldn't name, and rows of grenades and flashbangs. Below the weapons sat several black duffel bags and stacks of bundled, brand new US dollars. A quick glance suggested hundreds of thousands. I stared dumbfounded. My worldview had been crushed, reassembled, and crushed again in the span of an hour. I pointed at the cold metal. These. Are these for deep cleaning too?" Elena actually looked a bit embarrassed. She coughed lightly. "Just insurance. I hoped I'd never have to use them." As she spoke, she expertly took a sleek silver pistol from the wall, grabbed several magazines, and a black suppressor. Then she took out what looked like a leather wallet. Inside were rows of passports and IDs from different countries. All had her photo, but different names. I felt my tongue nodding. "How many secrets do you have?" Elena posed. She turned, eyes full of apology. "I'm sorry, Jason. I didn't mean to deceive you. I just wanted normal life so badly. These things are my past. I had to keep them to escape it." She handed me a backpack filled with cash and passports. "Put this on. We're out of time." I mechanically took the heavy bag. "What about the bodies?" "Leave them," Elena said, her tone returning to professional ice. "Someone will clean them up. We need to vanish from the city before their people react." "Their people?" "My old employer," she said, stuffing ammo into another tactical bag. "An organization called Elysium." Elysium sounded like a cult. Are they tough? Put it this way. She stopped and looked at me gravely. The 3 guys tonight? They were the lowest level cleaners. Garbage men. My heart hit rock bottom. 3 guys with submachine guns were just garbage men? How terrifying was this Elysium? Could we really escape? Back door. Elena shouldered a bulging tactical pack, holding the silver pistol. She had changed out of her pajamas into a tight black tracksuit that outlined her figure perfectly. Under different circumstances, I might have whistled. Now, her sharp aura made it hard to breathe. Our kitchen connected to a small utility balcony. Elena hopped over the railing effortlessly, landing on the narrow fire escape outside. She reached back for me. Come on. I looked down. We were 6 stories up. That's really high. Don't look down. Follow my feet. Trust me. I gritted my teeth, closed my eyes, and took her hand. Her grip was soft, but undeniably strong. She pulled, and I was out. Eyes on me. I stared at her eyes, shuffling along the narrow ledge. The cold wind whipped my clothes. Every step felt like dancing on knife's edge. We made it to the neighbor's fire escape and descended rapidly. We could hear sirens in the distance and neighbors murmuring about the noise. We moved like rats in the shadows. Reaching the ground floor, Elena bypassed the main exit and pried open a maintenance door leading to the sub-basement. A damp, moldy smell hit us. Hold your breath, she said, jumping down. I had no choice. I followed her into the dark underground. We navigated a maze of pipes for 10 minutes until Elena stopped at a rusty ladder. She pushed open a manhole cover, checked the surroundings, and climbed out. We were in a desolate alley a few blocks from our building. Looking back, police lights surrounded our apartment complex. Where now? I whispered. To get the car. She led me to an old underground parking garage nearby. In the corner sat a dusty, nondescript black sedan, a Ford Taurus. It looked abandoned. Elena pulled out a key fob. Beep beep. The lights flashed. This is your car? I didn't know you had a car. My secrets have secrets, she said, opening the driver's door. I'll explain later. Get in. I sat in the passenger seat, buckling up, my heart still hammering. Elena started the engine. The roar was deep and powerful, completely unlike a standard Ford Taurus. The car glided out of the garage and into the city traffic. Neon lights flashed, cars blurred by. If not for the smell of the sewer on my clothes, I would have thought it was all a nightmare. Why do they want you back so badly? I asked after a long silence. Aren't you dead? Elena gripped the wheel, eyes forward. Because I took something very important to them. What? A database. It contains every transaction, mission brief, and a client list from Elysium's inception. A list of clients, she smiled coldly. Imagine the world's top politicians, billionaires, celebrities. They are all Elysium's customers. If this list leaks, the world shakes. I sucked in a cold breath. This wasn't just a hit squad. This was a massive empire controlling the world's shadows. So if they need the database back and to clean house, why find you now? It's been 3 years. I was careful, and they had internal issues. But now, Elena's eyes sharpened. Someone put a bounty on me. A bounty? Yesterday. Highest priority on the dark web. On who? Nightingale. How much? I asked nervously. Elena paused, then whispered 100 million. $100. $100. I felt like someone stuffed cotton in my throat. $100 million. That number was astronomical, and it was the price of the head of the woman sitting next to me. So, the guys at the apartment, they wanted the money. No, she shook her head. They were internal cleaners enforcing rules. The bounty is for freelancers. Every mercenary and assassin in the world is probably converging on Chicago right now. My face went paper white. Internal hit squads plus every freelancer on Earth. We hadn't just kicked a hornet's nest. We had nuked it. Are we? Very unsafe. What do you think? She shot me a glance that reminded me of her playful wife persona. She reached in a glove box and tossed something at me. A heavy black vest. Put on. What is it? Kevlar. Driving my wife's secret car, putting on body armor. This marriage had taken a hell of a turn. I struggled into the stiff vest. Buckle up tight. Hold on, Elena commanded. Before I could react, she yanked the wheel. The sedan let out a beastly roar, tires screaming as she drifted around a corner at an impossible angle, shooting into a narrow side street. G-force pinned me to the seat. What's wrong? We have a tail. Her eyes were glued to the rearview mirror. Black SUV. Been with us since the garage. I looked back. Sure enough, a black SUV had followed us into the turn, accelerating aggressively. Seat tight. Elena floored it. Vroom. The Ford Taurus unleashed horsepower worthy of a supercar. My head slammed into the headrest. Outside was a blur. I gripped the handle above the door for dear life. Bang! A dull thud from behind. The SUV's sunroof opened. A bald man in sunglasses leaned out, holding a shotgun. He grinned and aimed at us. Holy SHD, he's got a gun. I see him. Elena was calm. Keep her head down. Bang! Another shot. Our rear windshield spiderwebbed, but didn't shatter. Bulletproof glass. Standard issue. My wife was awesome. They're too close. Can't shake them. Elena navigated the narrow street at high speed. She hit a red button on the console. Click. My glove compartment popped open. Inside wasn't registration or napkins. It was another silver pistol and spare mags. Jason, grab it. Shoot. Shoot. I can't. The most dangerous thing I'd ever handled was a kitchen knife. I don't know how. Bang. Another shot sparked off the roof. No time. Do as I say. Her voice was sharp. Flip the safety. Little switch above the trigger. Push up. I fumbled and pushed it. Click. Good. Pull the slide back and let go. I yanked the slide. Clack. Chambered, she said like a drill sergeant. Roll down the window. Aim for their tires. Shoot. I pressed the window button. Cold wind and the smell of gunpowder rushed in. I stuck the gun out, shaking like a leaf. The SUV was right on our tail. The bald man was reloading. Don't hesitate. Just pull. I couldn't aim. We were bouncing around. Jason, look at me, she shouted. I turned. She was driving one-handed, looking at me with fierce intensity. Don't think of it as a gun. Don't think about killing. Treat it like a video game. Point and click the mouse. Her voice had a weird magic. My heart slowed slightly. Video game? Mouse click? I closed my eyes, remembering nights playing Call of Duty. Deep breath. Aim. Fire. I opened my eyes, ignored the gun, focused on the tire, and squeezed. Bang! The recoil shocked my arm numb. The bullet went wide. Keep going. Bang. 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 I went crazy, emptying the magazine blindly until the slide locked back. Click, click. I opened my eyes, panting. The SUV was still there, untouched. The bald man had reloaded and was aiming again. We're dead. No, you did great, Elena said. What? You bought me time. She slammed the brakes and ripped the wheel left. SCRECH. Our car spun 180 degrees, facing the oncoming SUV in reverse. I saw the shock on the driver's face. Elena had already drawn her own pistol from the driver's side door pocket. Time slowed. She steered with her left hand, aimed through the windshield with her right. Her eyes were focused, lethal. Bang, one shot. Clean. The bullet passed through the space between cars, through the SUV's windshield, and left a small red dot on the bald man's forehead. The SUV swerved wildly, missing us by inches, and smashed into a brick wall. Boom! Explosion. Fire. Elena didn't look back. She spun the car around again and merged back into traffic, disappearing into the night. I sat there holding the hot, empty gun, trembling. But this time it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline. How was it? She asked. Weird. My hand is numb. You get used to it. Where are we going? Somewhere absolute. A place Elysium can't find. She drove to a dilapidated industrial district and stopped in front of an abandoned warehouse with condemned spray painted on the rusty door. Here, best hiding spots look like trash. She pressed a remote. The rusty door groaned and rose, revealing a gleaming, high-tech metal tunnel. Welcome to my snail shell. We drove in. The door sealed behind us. The tunnel led to a spacious underground bunker. It wasn't just a safe house. It was a mini base. Bedroom, kitchen, power generators, a shooting range, and a command center with wall-to-wall monitors. I spent 3 years building this, she said, unbuckling. Just in case. Let's fix you up. She led me to a med bay. I realized my elbows and knees were scraped and bleeding. She cleaned my wounds gently, blowing on them when I winced. It was intimate. I reached out and touched her face. She froze, then looked at me. Thank you, I said, for not giving up on me. Her eyes reddened. Idiot. I'd never give up on you. The atmosphere thickened. Just as I leaned in to kiss her, a console beeped. Beep, beep, beep. Elena snapped into professional mode, answering the call. A hologram projected into the room. A man in a white lab coat and wire-rimmed glasses appeared. He looked scholarly. Hello, Nightingale. Thought you were dead. Elena scolded. Crow, how did you get this frequency? Don't be mad. Crow smiled. Just catching up and bringing good news. Your bounty went up. 150 million. Oh, and who is this? Crow looked at me. The husband you betrayed the organization for? He looks ordinary. What do you want? Elena growled. Just a heads up, Crow grinned. The cleaners are in town. Not one. Two. Ghost and the butcher. Elena's face went grave. Bingo. They want to pay their respects to the legend. Did you tell them where I am? I'm just the IT guy, Crow shrugged. I don't do field work, but I am curious who wins, the legend or the golden duo. Oh, and regarding Mr. Hayes, Crow adjusted his glasses. Management wants him alive. They want to study the man who turned the ultimate killer into a housewife. You dare. Elena slammed her fist on the table. I don't, but Ghost and Butcher will. Good luck. The hologram vanished. Silence returned. Elena was shaking with rage. Crow is an ex? I asked cautiously. Target, she said. My last mission was to kill him. He hacked Elysium. I spared him in exchange for a new identity. We use each other. And Ghost and Butcher. Monsters, she shuddered. Elysium has a ranking. I was number 1. Ghost is 2. Butcher is 3. Butcher is a giant. Loves heavy weapons. A sadist. Ghost acts like a phantom. Master of stealth. They have a 100% success rate together. Can we beat them? Don't worry. She took my hand. I won't let them touch you. Suddenly, alarm screamed. Warning. Perimeter breached. The monitors showed the warehouse entrance. A massive figure holding a giant metal axe was tearing the reinforced door apart like tinfoil. Nightingale. The man roared. The butcher is here to play. How did he find us? I yelled. Crow. He sold us out. Elena, he said. Boom. The butcher smashed through the inner door. He chopped a power conduit. I'm cutting the lights. We're trapped. Only one way out. Elena looked at me, her eyes icy. Kill him. She opened a weapons case, revealing a black sniper rifle. This is Death's Kiss. My old rifle. She assembled it rapidly. I'll draw his fire. You climb the vents to the second floor catwalk. Find a vantage point. Me? Sniper. I panicked. I can't aim. You don't need to be accurate. You just need to distract him when I signal. I'm not asking you to kill him. I'm asking you to save me. Jason, listen. She held my face. I have a weakness now. You. They know that. You have to protect yourself. Protect us. Courage surged in me. Okay. She kissed my forehead. Come back alive. I crawled through the vents, dragging the heavy rifle. Below, I heard destruction. I found a grate and exited onto a high beam overlooking the warehouse floor. Below, the butcher had breached the inner sanctum. Elena stood there with dual pistols, facing the giant. Nightingale, you finally came out. Butcher, you're still as ugly as ever. I'll crush your bones. He charged like a rhino. Now, Elena's voice crackled in my ear. I centered the crosshair on the giant mass and pulled the trigger. Boom! The recoil knocked me flat on my back. Down below, the butcher stumbled. His left knee exploded in a spray of blood. The armor-piercing round had shattered the joint. Ark, he roared, looking up. Little bug, I'll kill you. He ignored Elena and turned to charge the catwalk. But Elena moved. Bang, bang, bang. She danced around him, firing into his exposed joints. Wrists, ankles, neck. He swung his axe wildly, destroying walls, but he couldn't touch her. Stand still, he screamed. Elena emptied her mags and threw the empty guns at his face. He blocked. She slid in close, hand to hand with a giant. Suicide. But she smashed her elbow upward into his jaw. Crack. The giant was stunned for a split second. Elena leaped, wrapping her legs around his neck in a triangle choke. She torqued her entire body. Break. Crack. A sickening snap echoed. The butcher's head twisted unnaturally. The giant collapsed. Dead. I sat up gasping. Elena looked up and gave me a thumbs up, mouthing, nice shot, bad aim. I love it. I grinned. Then, click. Darkness. Every light died. Elena. Quiet. I'm here. Her voice was tense. A synthesized voice echoed over the PA system. Clap. 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 Bravo, Nightingale. But now, the lights are out. Ghost. Elena, he said. I'm everywhere. Let's play a game. I'll start with your husband. A chill at my back. Look out. Elena screamed. Bang! A shot from the dark. Elena had fired blindly to cover me. Fast reflexes. Ghost laughed. But he's a burden. Don't touch him. I'm enjoying this. Stay put, Jason. Elena ordered over the comms. He has night vision. We don't. What do I do? Nothing. I'll hunt him. Silence. The hunt began. Sudendii. Elena cried out. Elena. Just a scratch. Arm. You're getting slow, Nightingale. I couldn't just sit here. I had to think. I'm a programmer. Systems. Get to the command room. Lock yourself in. What? Leave you? Do it. It's bulletproof. I have a plan. Jason. Trust me. Go. Okay. I heard the door seal. Ghost laughed. Abandoning him? Cold. I climbed down to the center of the open floor and sat down. Hey, ghost, or whatever you are, I'm right here. Silence. Come on. Are you blind? You have a death wish? Ghost hissed. I felt him behind me. Now, Elena. Now, I screamed in my head. Whoosh, the warehouse fire suppression system triggered. But not water. Foam. Thick, white, high-expansion foam flooded the room instantly. What is this? Ghost yelled. His night vision was useless. He was blind. Now we're both blind, Elena's voice whispered behind him. I heard struggling, wet thuds, and a final gurgle. It was over in a minute. Jason, clear. The foam settled. Elena stood over a man in black. He had his own knife in his neck. We survived. In a med bay, I bandaged Elena's arm. Husband. Yeah. You were cool back there. I blushed. I try. Where do we go now? Anywhere. A beach? Open a restaurant? Asian ribs, 24/7. Deal. 3 days later, we were on a private jet. Crow was on the screen. Sorry about the mess. Crow smirked. But you killed the top two. Elysium is in chaos. I scrambled their data. You have 6 months of peace. This jet and the island in the Caribbean are my gift. Why? I asked. Because you, Jason, are interesting. You're the knife that can kill Elysium. I'm investing in you. Use the database. Build a new world. Or burn the old one. 1 year later. Caribbean. A white wooden shack on the beach. Elena's kitchen. Elena was cooking in the back. I sat out front with a laptop. Lines of green code scrolling. Encrypted chat. Crow. Found a European node. Coordinates sent. Jason. Waiting for her to finish the ribs. Crow. You two are terrifying. I closed the laptop. Honey, dinner. Elena came out with a platter of ribs. I kissed her. Thanks, babe. Not tired. Nope. She whispered in my ear. After dinner, let's go kill some bad guys. I smiled. Sounds like a plan. Story complete.